Damn, I love the wrestling business. There's never any shortage of stuff to talk about. Wow, where to start? Where to start? Well, coming off the heels of a really good Bound for Glory, I wasn't sure what TNA was going to do here. I was wondering, would it be back to business as usual, or would they be shaking things up? And I'm very happy to say that TNA decided it was time to go in a new direction. Kurt Angle is a babyface. Team 3D might be turning heel. We got a new feud in the tag title picture finally. New talent making a huge impact. And then there's Turning Point, which already looks like the best pay-per-view of the year on paper, but I'll get to that in just a few minutes. I mean, we got new storylines, new feuds, new characters. In just one show, the writers completely shook up the status quo and suddenly everything feels new and fresh. This is what the WWE should be doing after WrestleMania every year. And I'm not talking about the annual draft lottery. I mean, they need to shake things up in a way that's actually interesting. Now, how about Nigel McGuinness? Holy crap. Huge coup for TNA snatching up this guy. WWE decided not to sign him after all for some reason, and they were stupid to do it. And Nigel's a hell of a talented guy, and TNA obviously know it. I mean, they're strapping a rocket to him already. What a debut he had. I mean, his first night in the company, they put him in a feud with Kurt Angle. 2 segments and he already looks like a main eventer. I mean, if WWE had signed him, he probably would have been in FCW for 6 months, debut on Tuesday night, and then get put in a feud with Yoshitatsu or something like that. And I don't even want to think about what they're going to do to Bryan Danielson. Oh, jeez. I hope you like jobbing to Hornswoggle Dragon, because that's what you're in for. You see, unlike WWE, TNA are actually serious about their youth movement, and luckily they don't have to worry about guys like Triple H burying everyone who isn't him just to feed his own massive ego. They had someone like that, and now he's gone. Bye, Booker. Now, of course, this week, TNA had themselves 2 big gimmick matches. 6 sides of steel for the Tag Team Championships, and an Ultimate X for the #1 contendership to the Tag Team Championships. Now, were either of these gimmicks really justified? Well, the 6 sides of steel I think you could make a case for, just because it was the capper of the feud. They said it was Beer Money's last shot at the titles while the British Invasion are still the champs. So under the circumstances, I think the gimmick was appropriate. And I love that this was supposedly Beer Money's last title shot for a while, because that virtually guarantees that we get some new faces in the title picture now, i.e. Motor City Machine Guns, and it's about damn time. Then we had the Ultimate X for the title shot. I really didn't see any reason to make this an Ultimate X match, especially when you just had a great one at Bound for Glory. Plus, the Guns were in that match at Bound for Glory too. I mean, for them to be in 2 Ultimate X's in 3 days, that's absolutely brutal. I mean, they shouldn't have to do that. I mean, you shouldn't have to put those guys through that. Another issue is that these 2 teams really haven't done anything lately to earn a spot in a #1 contendership match. I mean, the Guns have at least been on TV doing something, but Lethal Consequences have been doing absolutely nothing. But I think it made sense in this case. I mean, Booker T's gone, so him and Steiner are kaput. Team 3D are doing other stuff now. Beer Money had their last title shot for a while on this show, so that basically leaves these 2 teams. So I didn't have a problem with the logic here. Now, of course, when I read about these matches in the spoilers, I just went and said to myself, I'm like, oh, geez, here we go again with these random 2-minute gimmick matches. I mean, they already killed the ladder match, and now they want to kill the 6 sides of steel and the Ultimate X on top of that? Better have my screaming pillow handy when I do the video. But after watching the show, I was actually pleasantly surprised with how these came off. I mean, the matches were booked as the double main event of the show, just as they should have been. And they weren't overly short matches either. I mean, yeah, they weren't incredibly long, but compared to the 4-minute main events that we usually get on Impact, these things actually got some decent time. I mean, the wrestlers actually had time to deliver something in the ring and make the matches feel like they weren't entirely meaningless. I mean, we got a sliced bread powerbomb combo off the stanchion pole, Tower of Doom from the top of the steel cage. Now, granted, they were both pretty short by pay-per-view gimmick match standards, and the finish of the main event was just stupid. I mean, I don't know how the hell you get DQ'd in a cage match. But when these matches were over, I didn't feel ripped off. And I can't believe I'm about to say this, but both of these matches were commercial-free. Commercial-free. When's the last time that happened on Impact? Now, the one thing TNA failed to do, was hype the living piss out of these matches before the show. They announced the matches at the start of the show, but they didn't really follow it up that much, and that was stupid. So the way TNA presented these two matches was not perfect, but it was a big step up from the way they usually present these things. So for just this one show, I'm giving TNA a pass on the random gimmick match stuff, which means that, luckily, this week, I will not be needing this. Some other things I liked about this show. Better placement of commercial breaks. Finally. Cutting to commercials after the wrestlers' entrances, but before the match starts, instead of what they usually do, which is just cutting to commercials in the middle of a match. You know, it pisses me off so much when that happens. But this week, we got to see every match on the show in its entirety, and all TNA had to do was be a little smarter about where they placed the commercial breaks. Thank you, TNA. Keep that up. Also, giving those mini show updates during the commercials I thought was a great idea to keep people tuned in, and this thing they started doing with the graphics of all the wrestlers' stats when they do their entrances, height, weight, years as a pro, whatever, that's great. That's the kind of stuff you see in professional sports all the time. I mean, I hope this is the start of TNA taking their product in a more quote-unquote sports-oriented direction like Dixie Carter wanted them to. And if you add to that TNA possibly starting to do countdown shows for their big pay-per-views, I mean, put all that stuff together, we could be looking at big changes in TNA as far as them making their product more serious and realistic. I love what I'm seeing right now. I can't wait to find out what happens next. Of course, there were some problems with the show too. I can't not mention this stuff. Something that really bothered me was the Awesome Kong Raisha Saeed match only got about 3 minutes. I mean, you build up to this match for 2 months, and then you only give it 3 minutes. 3 minutes, really? Where's the payoff? Where was it? This was a glorified squash, and they never unmasked Melissa. Damn it! Man, I was really bummed out about that. I mean, hopefully that's still in the cards, because if they don't follow through with that, it was just going to be a huge waste of an awesome potential feud. But as disappointing as that was, for me, the worst part of the show was how they announced the main event of Turning Point. They just announced it in a random backstage interview and that's it. Are you kidding me? That's horrible. It's a rematch from the greatest match in TNA history. Play it up! Make a big deal out of it. Let the newer fans know why they should get excited about this. And another problem is that the match really doesn't make sense right now. I mean, I love that it's happening, don't get me wrong, but how is it happening? That's what they need to address. I mean, both the challengers are coming off of 2 big losses. Samoa Joe lost the X Division title to Amazing Red at Impact. He lost to Bobby Lashley at Bound for Glory. Daniels lost to Joe with No Surrender, and he lost in the Ultimate X. And now all of a sudden they're in the main event for the world title? How does that work? I mean, if Joe and Daniels won qualifying matches or won like a battle royal or something to get into the match, that would be different. But as it is, they just announced it like it was already happening, and it doesn't make sense. It's not justified. I mean, I know why they're doing this. I think originally it was going to be AJ versus Kurt Angle at Turning Point, but there's Survivor Series coming up, there's Brock's next fight coming up. They figure, well, we're probably not going to get a great buy rate on Turning Point anyway, so let's just give the fans a kick-ass match, make the smart marks happy, and save AJ and Kurt Angle for later. So, I see TNA's reasons for doing this. My problem is, it would have been pretty easy for them to set this match up in advance so that it made sense when it happened, and it doesn't. It's still going to be a great match, though. And speaking of great matches, let's look at the rest of Turning Point so far. Kurt Angle versus Nigel McGuinness. Holy fans' dream match, Batman. Motor City Machine Guns, finally getting a tag team title shot against the British Invasion. Now, I know Sabin got hurt at the TV tapings. Hopefully he'll be good to go by then. Probably Amazing Red versus Homicide for the X Division title. We got a little tease of that this week, and if that was any indication, then I can't freaking wait to see this match. And then you add to that the main event, AJ, Daniels, and Joe in an unbreakable rematch for the World Heavyweight title. I mean, what the hell, TNA? Where did this awesome card come from? Did you just pull this out of your ass at random? This is insane. Turning Point could be fucking pay-per-view of the year at this rate. I'm ordering this thing right now. See you next week.